coming out is particularly specific to LGBTQ plus people, but it is also a universal aspect. There is also a universal aspect to it. It involves gauging safety around us. It involves making sure that it's okay to be who we are. And today we're going to feature different voices and different stories from our network about their experience.
And I grew up at a time when homosexuality was not talked about. I didn't know the meaning of the word till I was 17. Sex between men was illegal, and it was a very, very dark time indeed when people just couldn't be themselves. I had known that I was a bit different from other boys, but it just suddenly hit me that word applied to me, and I'm a homosexual. I was terrified to do anything about it for fear of being found out. First time any other living soul knew part of myself when I was 30. And that was a woman who was becoming quite a close friend. But then it became more and more obvious that what she wanted was more than just friendship. And so I just felt I had to come straight with her. And I plucked up the courage, not knowing what she would feel about it. I just plucked up the courage to tell her that I was homosexual. And I didn't come out again until about 6 years later. And so I came up very, very gradually. I was held back by being a minister in the church. And again, it was a subject that was never talked about. In some ways, I was luckier than the young generation of Christians today, because I never heard myself condemned from the pulpit. It just wasn't mentioned. I came out really fully when I was over 80. A lot of my friends knew about me, but I gradually came out. And then, of course, as some of you know, in 2019, I was Stonewall's Gay Role Model of the Year. There were friends that I'd known for many, many years. And there's always that fear of what will they think? Some people say, well, what are you doing in a Christian church? I mean, the church is against gay people. I want to stay in the church because I'm convinced that what a lot of people in the churches think about homosexuality is not Christian. Because taking the example of Jesus, I believe that God is love, and God loves people who love.
I was at an all boys school, and it was made very clear that heterosexuality was the norm, to the point of anyone who in any way showed any inclination or even said something wrong was labeled gay and was beaten up in the showers. So it took a lot for me to kind of realize that there was that aspect of my kind of sexuality, and that I was attracted to men and to males and females. For me, because of my experiences, I couldn't disentangle the assault, the abuse I'd had. So it was like half of me was kind of shut down, really. For many, many years after that, because it's this experience I'd gone through. I hadn't realised the significance. I didn't reach out to other people. So really, it was when I was at Manchester University, when there was a really thriving gay and lesbian community, and I was quite heavily involved in the Students' Union as a postgraduate, that I started to become exposed to people for whom these experiences weren't negative, weren't a reason to be bullied, weren't things to be suppressed. And really, it was about that time I started to realise that things had happened to me, and that allowed me to then have that kind of inner dialogue with myself. And in that respect, I ended up married. I'm sadly divorced now, but I ended up married to a woman who was bisexual as well. And it was quite interesting how we would be seen as the white cis couple, and yet we were both bisexual. We weren't particularly out. I'm not out to my family. I started to get the confidence to be out when I actually started working at the University of Glamorgan. And I thought it's about then that I had started to have successful relationships, because really up until that time, they weren't successful at all. And I felt confident enough to kind of come out. Sadly, back in the very early 90s, there were quite a few of my colleagues who were homophobic. The institution has changed, is radically different, much, much better now for recognizing these things. But back then I had active hostility from people superior to me when I came out as bi. But by that stage, I thought, fuck it, sorry, I'm going to own who I am, whether or not that means there's going to be negative consequences. When you get so much happening to you, after a while you think, no, I've got nothing more to lose, and anyone who has got a problem with that, it's theirs, not mine. Whereas for many, many years I thought it was me, I was broken. It doesn't help that I'm autistic as well. So I sort of I do regret a little bit. I kind of mourn the loss of the me that could be more confident and more able to explore that side of myself. I'm aware it exists. It kind of got strangled at birth, really, because of a number of experiences I had. And I guess I'll still carry on with that. But that's sort of my story. And if anyone's interested, there is an article that I was interviewed for many years ago, where I talk about beating the final boss, because obviously I'm in games development, and you wouldn't be surprised, I suspect, that there's a lot of abuse in the games industry, just as there is in the film industry and various others as well. And I was one of many people interviewed for that series, and so I beat my final boss. So that's the positive at the end of it all. And I hope that nobody else has to go through those kind of things.
Firstly, I just wanted to start with a little bit of context. Well, sorry, the Philippines was colonized by Spain for over 300 years. And during that time, the indigenous practices that celebrated queerness and gender fluidity were violently stamped out. To be a gay man, you would be bunched in with transgender women, and that there was one term for that, which is bakla. There was another one for gay women and trans men, which is called tomboy. And that's important to me because when I started to realize that I liked girls, I thought then that meant I was a trans boy. My mum then she looked through my phone and discovered messages between me and my girlfriend. My phone wasn't given back to me and I wasn't allowed out after school for quite a few months, which at the time was a surefire way to starve a childhood romance. I kind of threw myself then into being the good little Catholic girl my family wanted me to be. I reached adulthood and I had my first real girlfriend. Well, again, it was another relationship that was starved from the get-go because I knew I could never bring her home. Being bisexual, I had the privilege of being able to then engage in straight relationships or straight presenting relationships. I never had those conversations again with my mother for, well, the next how many years. My real coming out story is actually my sister's. She called me crying about 5 years ago because, yeah, she'd just come out to my mum as bisexual and it didn't go well. My mum was devastated. My sister was devastated. So what I had to do then was come out all over again and talk about the secret life that I had lived. And I'm actually quite proud to say that my mum has done the learning, is doing the unlearning of all the prejudice that she'd been indoctrinated with over the years. Every day I'm still coming out to me and becoming more and more accepting of myself, which goes against everything I learned from my own childhood, and really proud of everyone else around me in the USW Spectrum Network, which is the first time I've ever been out at work.
But my story, I'm from Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. The culture has been an emergence of from one colonization history with Spain to, from 1898, the colonization history with the US. From the Spain colonization, Spanish colonization, we have a very active Christian Catholic framework. We have a very active LGBTQ plus community, and a lot of activism is around awareness. My nuclear family, it's my aunt, my dad, and 2 uncles, and my 2 uncles are gay. Then my aunt has 2 sons, and the 2 sons are gay. Right? So very queer family, but male gay family. But I didn't have any lesbian friends. They didn't have any, it wasn't in the ethos, let alone bisexuality, right? So there was very little visibility for women. My queerness then as a therapist, I'm a dance movement psychotherapist, then became a bit even more complicated because then people assumed I was queer because I said I worked with LGBTQ plus community. And I was very comfortable with people assuming. And then there was a call out about kind of a scholarship for somebody LGBT. Am I going to have to stand in front of all these dance therapists and tell my story? Am I ready for that? Coming into USW, when I got approached by Spectrum and going, can you be the LGBT role model? And I just had another panic of going, I'm nobody's role model. And they're like, oh, we're going to have little posters and we're going to post them around. And I was like, oh, that's another kind of visibility, right? And that's why I keep saying that coming out is an ongoing process. I think that these opportunities for visibility have put me, I would love to say, oh yeah, but it has been a journey of understanding that, yeah, this is part of who I am.
I feel grateful really to be a part of Spectrum where I can just be me and there is no discrimination for being bisexual in a straight relationship or anything else. It's just okay, I'm just me.
Small issues are endemic, but I think it was reassuring for me to have Spectrum exist, because it meant I knew there were at least some people for whom I could be honest about experiences I'd had, and that I would feel supported, and I would therefore be able to support others as well.
Hi everyone. So joining in solidarity as a gay woman and a colleague and friend, member of Spectrum. So I don't often get chance and time to come to join these sessions, but I think today's been really important. And I just want to say thank you, Jock and Val, to all of you. I was thinking about you all this morning, and I just thought, gosh, it's a really brave thing that you're doing. So well done.